So this weekend we are featuring Before the Safari. This is our weekend special. So throughout this weekend, I will be reading excerpts from the different stories in this book. And the first excerpt I'm going to read is from the first story called The Promise. And this is a story that kind of gives you an origin of Changa and who he is. So I'm going to read a little bit of that story, and I'll leave the rest up to you. The drums rumbled through the city, each beat striking Changa in his chest like a club. The people crowding around him mourned in various ways. Some clutched their heads and moaned, while others covered their tear-stained faces. They all reacted to the scene taking place before them, the execution of the Kabaka, Mfumu. Changa tried to look away, but the woman holding him pulled his hands away from his face. Changa closed his eyes and winced as the woman slapped his cheek. "Open your eyes, boy," she said. "You must see this. You must remember this." "I don't want to," Changa cried. The woman's grip eased for a moment upon hearing Changa's word. "You must," she said, her lips close to his ear. "He's your Baba." Mfumu Diop knelt on the pat dirt, his bloody hands tied behind his back. Changa could barely recognize Baba, his face swollen and bruised. A warrior gripped the rope tied around his neck, pulling the cord tight. Changa looked beyond Baba to see Mama and his sisters on their knees as well, their wailing cutting through the constant drumming to reach his ears. They were flanked by more masked warriors armed with short swords and spears. Changa's eyes then focused on the towering muscular man standing behind Baba, the execution sword gripped in his hands. The man wore a mask similar to the warriors, except the mask seemed alive on his face, shifting with expression. His upper body was festooned with gris-gris, his lower body covered by a bark kilt that fell to his calves. He paced beside Baba, looking down at him like a hunter admiring freshly fallen game. Changa's fear and sorrow slowly slipped from his mind, replaced by anger and hate. The woman holding him spoke again, seeming to sense the change in his mood. "Yes, Changa, remember this. Ushenge the sorcerer, Ushenge the betrayer, Ushenge the usurper, Ushenge the murderer." "Ushenge the murderer," he whispered. Ushanga shook the execution sword over his head. "The ancestors have chosen," he said. "Only the strongest can rule, and I am the strongest." The sorcerer gripped the sword hilt with both hands. Changa's body went stiff as Baba managed to turn his head. His eyes met Changa's, and then his lips moved. Changa heard his Baba's words in his head. "Avenge me." Ushenge grunted as he brought down the sword. As the blade cut into his Baba's neck, Changa cried out, "Murderer!" Mfumu's body slumped headless to the ground. Ushenge twisted toward the crowd where Changa and the woman hid. "The boy," Ushenge said. "Find him." People surrounding Changa looked down at him, hopeful expressions on their faces. They pressed close to him as Ushenge's men advanced. A large man with a scarred face knelt before him. "You are the Kabaka now. You must live to take your Baba's place." He looked up to the woman. "Get him out of here, Lavanga. He has seen what he needs to see. We will do what we can." "Thank you, Inyama." Lavanga touched the man's chest. "We will meet again among the ancestors." Armed men and women surged by Changa and Lavanga. As Ushenge's warriors pushed their way into the crowd, Lavanga wrapped her arms around Changa, then backed away until they reached the edge of the bush. "Come, child." "No," Changa said. "I must avenge Baba. I must save Mama and my sisters." "Not this day, Changa." Lavanga dragged Changa into the bush as the crowd erupted in violence. Changa tried to break away from the woman, but her grip was too strong. He went limp, hoping his weight would force her to stop. Instead, she dragged him, his legs scraping against the dirt and shrubs. He finally gave in, clambering to his feet, then running along as well as he could. They ran until darkness, or at least Lavanga did. Changa's legs gave out hours before. Lavanga picked him up, then continued running. It was well into darkness before the woman stood still. "We are here," she said. The destination was a thicket of trees and bushes on the slope of a steep hill. Lavanga placed the weary Changa down on a mat of straw, then sat beside him. Changa watched her as she took a deep breath, then lay on her back. Sleep, she commanded. Changa didn't obey. He cried, the image of Baba's beheaded body and his weeping mama and sisters haunting him. When he finally sat up, he looked upon Lavanga. She was awake as well, sobbing as quiet as she could. Seeing his Aunt mourn comforted him. It was good to know that he was not the only person saddened by Baba's murder. He lay down again, this time succumbing to fatigue. And that's a snippet from the first story in Before the Safari called The Promise. And like I said, throughout this weekend, I'll be reading snippets. But if you don't want to hear me read anything else, you can go to my website, order Before the Safari today, and it'll be on its way to you next week. Y'all take care. Peace.